Hello everyone, it's Robert from On My Turntable. Yes, I've decided to change the name from On the Turntable to On My Turntable as there's already a couple of stations out there called On My Turntable. I didn't want to cause any confusion or get in any type of trouble, so I changed it to On My Turntable. Today I wanted to talk about a little band that debuted in 1963. They've been around forever. They're still as popular today as they were when they came out at that time. And selling millions of albums, featured in dozens and thousands of documentaries and movies and music and words. Talked about constantly, still influencing fans today. Still, a lot of new people, a lot of young people are discovering this band because of their popularity. And we're talking about a little band called The Beatles. Mr. Sir Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and the great Ringo Starr on drums. This happens to be their debut album, Please Please Me. It's a remastered version of the album. I wish I had more time to talk about all of these albums, but I don't, or else I'd take up the whole day talking about them, which I could. But this is a great debut album. It came out in 1963. Please Please Me hit #1 in most charts immediately. Love Me Do stayed on the charts for 17 weeks. Record Retailer, which is a magazine, it topped their chart for 30 weeks, which was a great achievement for a band at that time. And about 8 months later, they came out with this great album called With the Beatles, their second album. Kind of a precedent as well for a band to come out with two albums in the same year. There's the great Apple logo. So With the Beatles, so again, was their second album, came out in 1963. Had 8 originals, 7 by McCartney and Lennon, and the first by George Harrison, called Don't Bother Me. Remained the top of the charts for 21 weeks with the Beatles. Their third one I have in vinyl, called Beatles for Sale. This is a mono version, where the remastered ones I have are all in stereo. There's a great picture there of the boys. So Beatles for Sale was their fourth studio album. As I said, it came out in 1964. #1 spot for 11 weeks for the 46 weeks it was on the charts. And just a great album. The next one I have is one of my favorites, Rubber Soul. Again, a remastered stereo version of this awesome album. So Rubber Soul, again, was their 6th studio album, came out in 1965, ranked 5th on the 500 greatest hits of all time, and it was 6 times platinum. The next one, again, another one of my favorites, Revolver. Okay. Another studio stereo classic. So Revolver was their 7th, came out in 1966. One of the greatest in popular music, considered that by so many people, and it was ranked #3 of the 500 all-time greatest albums of all time, and it was 5 times platinum. #6 was this one here, Sgt. Pepper, their first concept album. Very heavily drug-influenced album. I could go on again. Every album in here I could make a whole session on, which I will one day, because you can talk so much about each album. There's so much history of each album. But Sgt. Pepper came out in 1967. It was their 8th studio album. Remained on #1 on the charts for 27 weeks. It was the 3rd best album in the UK. 4 Grammy Awards in 1968, including Album of the Year. The first rock album to receive this honor, and #1 album in the top 500 for the best album ever. Just an amazing, amazing album. The seventh one, which in fact the seventh one I have, in fact, is their 8th studio album, is the White Album. Okay, I don't know if you can see the embossed Beatles logo there. Okay, there's a picture of the boys. Unfortunately, as great as this album is, and rock historians consider this one of their greatest achievements, it's a double album. Lots of arguments during the recording session. Heavily influenced by Yoko Ono in the studio, even though there was a no girlfriend, no wife policy. A lot of fights broke out during this session. A lot of egos on this one. Ringo left the band. George Martin was absent for a lot of the recording, but somehow they put it together and put out this great album. One of the best albums ever, Abbey Road. There's a great picture of the boys there. That's one of my favorite pictures of them. I also have this in picture disc. Thank you, Ken. I greatly appreciate you giving me this. It's up on my wall. I cherish it. And I also have it in album. Slight damage on the cover up here. That was my fault, but the album itself is still in great shape. Sorry. So, Abbey Road was their 11th studio album. Came out in 1969. It was their last album together as a band, where all members participated in the band. It hit immediately #1 in the US and UK, and many artists consider this their best album of all time. And the hit songs "Something" and "Here Comes the Sun" are considered George Harrison's best songs as well. They've just remastered the album "Let It Be," and I kind of held off on talking about the Beatles because of all the hype going on with that particular album. I don't know if I'll ever get it. It's quite expensive, but probably one day, being such a great fan. And then finally, I have this classic "Let It Be." This was released after the band broke up. It's the last album released, but it's not good. Of course, Abbey Road was their last album as a band together. Great photos in here. Okay. So, "Let It Be" was their 12th studio album, released in 1970. It was released as their final album, but again, it was released a month after the band had broken up. Hit #1 immediately in most countries, and released in conjunction with the movie of the same title, which is a great movie if you ever have a chance to see it. So again, I'm sorry I went through this quickly, but I didn't want to. I could have gone on for forever about this particular band of mine. It's a favorite. I have them on my wall. I've got posters in another room. Listen to them almost daily, if not physically in my head for sure. As a band, they were just amazing. They influenced so many people. They still influence so many people. People refer to them all the time. Great stars still think that they were a great influence on them, and without the Beatles, I'm not sure what music would be like today. Yes, Mimi, I love you too. that they were just that much of an influence on popular music, also popular culture. When they arrived in North America, it changed the scenery of music forever. And again, without them, what would music be like today? But again, that's a story for another time. Hope you had a great time watching this, and hope you enjoyed. And again, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.